Welcome to the end of the world, survivors. You're tuned into the last voice on the airwaves, Harper, or as I've come to call myself, DJ Clueless, broadcasting from a radio station that still hums with life. I'm no longer alone, but winter is hard and the undead still roam outside. This is where we fight back. I'll be your guide through the madness, sharing survival tips, locations of safe havens, and the occasional existential crisis. The world's gone dark, and the dead outnumber the living, but there are some of us ready to fight back and to rebuild some of what we've lost. The only real question is, what's next? Stay tuned to Zombie Apocalypse Survivor Radio. Stick around if you're still alive. Hello, survivors, and welcome to the Zombie Apocalypse Survivor Radio. I am currently at the plant, which is really cool. I'm very much enjoying it. I will say that Malcolm is definitely a taskmaster. When he says that you're coming to the plant to do some testing, he is not messing around. Basically, I haven't really had any time to do a radio broadcast or recording because I have been freaking everybody in his entire compound out. But before I get there, I would like to again revisit Robert's Rules of Chaos. We've spoken about these rules before, but the first rule is very, very important, and I don't think we've talked about it enough. So the first rule of Robert's Rules of Order is we are all in this together. Every human is your ally. Every human helps and is helped, or we all die. And in the much longer version that I have back at the station, this goes into how the zombies are all on the same team. The zombies, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they're doing it in perfect harmony. So when we fight amongst ourselves, all we're doing is helping the zombies. You guys have to look at this like a war. We are at war with zombies, which is ridiculous to say out loud unless it's actually happening. But we're at war with zombies. And as long as we keep warring with each other, we're going to continue to be at war with the zombies. So I am going to tell you a little bit about our trip home before I tell you about the plant. And I may have to cut this short and tell you more about the plant next week. But as you know, we cleared a house, which now has a big C on the door. One of the things that Robert's Rules talks about is if there are zombies inside and you know it, lock the door. If there aren't zombies inside, leave the door unlocked. That way, you know, if you open a door, you're not going to get attacked by a bunch of zombies. If the door's locked, you'll go, okay. Now, we knew there were zombies in there. I don't think we knew quite how many. But anyway, so I messed up my knee, which is still pretty messed up. Luckily, they have some kind of medicine here. So my knee's fixed up. Well, my knee is on the mend. It is braced. But I was not able to ride horseback. The way it stretched my knee, positioned my knee was just screamingly unpainful. So I got to ride in a wagon. Yay! Not as much fun as riding on horseback. A lot bumpier, but less painful. So that's a win, right? So we are trotting along because, you know, it's us and horses. We are not actually that far from the plant. We're maybe an hour out by horseback. And we run across a traffic snarl. which immediately caused Vince and a few of the other people in the group to freak out because they've cleared all the roads. They've cleared all the roads um, around the plant for basically any place they go, they clear the roads on their way. So they came this way to get me. That road was clear and it's not anymore. And zombies don't set up little traps like that. So we went ahead towards it. Apparently, Malcolm had told them, hey, you see traps like this, try to convert the people. Now, for those who are out doing it, they're like, yeah, try to convert that sniper that's going to shoot you in the head. That'll work. That'll do the trick. So we see it, and half of us hang back, but Vince, me, and because the wagon, or it's not like a wagon like you see on Little House of the Prairie, it is made out of modern stuff, but it's basically a wagon. Trailer, horse hitch, whatever you want to call it, was very visible. We were at the top of this hill, but the other people hadn't crested the hill yet, so Vince waved them back. So the plan was, me, Vince, the wagon, and a couple other people would head down, and the others would circle around. So we head down this hill, which was kind of a scary process because we're like, are we going to get shot in the head? Um, and we got down to the bottom, and there were 3 men there, and they had guns, and they took the guns out and basically said that they wanted the horses and the food. And if we gave them our horses and food, they'd let us go. And Vince said, well, we have a couple horses here, and we have food that'll last you maybe a day or two. If you come back with us to our compound, you can eat for the rest of your life. You just have to, put effort into making the compound a good place. And considering you went through all of this effort to move and block this road, it seems to me that you guys aren't afraid of a little hard work. And I tell you what, he said this so reasonably and so kindly and in such an offer of friendship. You would have thought that he had taken battery acid and thrown it in their faces by their reaction. They reacted like he was trying to murder them. They reacted so insanely. He said that, and they immediately put their guns up. And I don't know exactly what happened. I just remember it felt like time slowed down, and I could feel and see everything very clearly. And I was filled with just outrage and frustration and the idiocy of this. Again, who would turn down eating for the rest of your life instead of killing some people and taking their stuff? Like, why would you make that choice? I don't, there's so much about humans I don't get, but in this moment, I was filled with frustration and quite a bit of fear. And I screamed. I screamed really, 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 really loud. And it wasn't a scream of terror. It wasn't a scream of fear. It was almost like a battle cry. I don't know if you've ever heard a hawk cree, but like if humans could cree like a hawk, that's what it was. It was definitely a battle cry. And here's the thing. I was not totally in charge of the scream, but I screamed anyway, and it was similar to what happened with Violet and the two guys. They didn't drop and run, but they dropped their guns, and one man just started crying. Um, and this part I can't quite get out of my head. One of the men, he didn't run. He he picked up one of the guns and put it up to his head and pulled the trigger. And it was like I screamed, everybody dropped their guns. I was still screaming, and he picked it up and put it to his head. And that cut off my scream pretty much right there. And the other men were sobbing, just, you know, the huge gulping tears, the kind of crying that I've not really seen grown men do. It was wild. And I was not trying to show them anything. It was almost like this scream overtook me. And needless to say, they were in no position to fight us. The others showed up. We moved the cars. Well, they moved the cars. I'm not moving anything right now. They moved the cars out of the way, and the men were still sobbing by the time we were done. Vince again gave them the offer to come with us, but they didn't take it. I did not realize this, but Vince has a Polaroid camera. I don't know how long that Polaroid camera is going to last, though, because eventually we're going to run out of finding film or found film. And he took a picture of all of them. I guess to give to Malcolm or whoever's in charge of the front gates. Apparently, they have pictures of problematic people, people that if they let in, they need to be watched, basically. So Vince did ask one of the sobbing men what happened when I screamed, but he wasn't really home anymore. Like, Vince couldn't get an answer out of any of them. And so we headed to Malcolm's. We left them there. A couple of them, a couple of Malcolm's people wanted to kill them. But Vince said no. Vince said no, that even broken people are resources. Even people who don't necessarily deserve community will benefit a community. I don't know if I agree with that. Um, I think if you are in the zombie apocalypse and you're willing to commit murder, there's something wrong with you. And maybe you should join the undead, because you're clearly not on the side of humans. You're clearly already on the side of death. So why not be a zombie if you're going to attack other humans? What's the point of being alive and human if you're going to be as evil as the undead? What's the point? There isn't. There isn't one. So as we continued back to, well, I say back to, for me, it was the first time, to Malcolm's, everybody was a lot more subdued, because it's really upsetting to watch somebody kill themselves. You know, even if you might have been in a position where you had to kill them, it's still not a fun watch. It's still not a fun sight to see. Um, and I'm not going to explain it at length or go into graphic detail about it, because why? Why? We all have our own horrors that we have seen. You guys don't need to take up mine on top of yours. So, but one of the things I'm going to do right now is, it's been a while since I've read through Robert's Rules of Chaos, and I am going to read a very, very short version of it, because clearly the message did not get out to these men. But we are rebuilding. We are making communities. We are making connections. We're going to be planting crops in the spring. We're doing things, you know. And the time for fighting over the scraps of civilization is over. Stop fighting over the scraps of what was left and start building something new. So, Robert's Rules of Chaos starts off. We are all in this together. Every human is your ally. Every human helps and is helped, or we all die. Number 2, everybody gets shelter. Leave doors unlocked if they are clear houses. Leave doors locked if there are zombies inside. If you have any ability to write a Z on the door for zombie-infested houses, do it. Even if it's just you grab some mud and smear some, like be Zorro about it. Use a knife, use mud. If you can find chalk, whatever you've got. If you can at all, make repairs and improve shelters. When you go to a place where the fence is sagging, fix the fence. It'll keep you safe for the night and the next people too. And if you are making traps, designate those traps. Zombies can't read, so you can set up whatever Wile E. Coyote kind of trap you want to. Just, put a sign that says, "Hey humans, this is a trap for zombies. Don't walk here." Zombies can't read, just like they can't turn doorknobs, so you should be okay. It should be all right. Everybody eats. So this one is anybody who exists is going to have to eat. And everybody deserves a last meal. Our lifespans are much, much shorter, and nobody wants to go to bed hungry, right? So if you are in a shelter and there is a huge cache of food and you need to take it, leave enough for someone to have a last meal. Leave enough for the next person. Most of Robert's Rules of Chaos are about being in this together, being a member of the human race as opposed to being a member of the zombie horde. And with Everybody Eats, it is pretty important. Because here's the thing, you never know if somebody's gotten bit. You never know if somebody is sick. You never know. And everybody deserves the comfort of a last meal or the comfort of their next meal. So everybody eats, even if you're just leaving a can of corn and like a protein bar, leave something for the next person. Everybody rests in peace. The only enemy we have is the dead. Kill them every chance you have, but don't get killed. Keep perimeters clear. 5 zombies is too many. We all know that Z terror doesn't kick in when you have 4 zombies. As soon as you have 5 zombies, the Z terror kicks in, and not all of us, but the vast majority of us will be frozen in fear for several seconds. And if there's a fast zombie, several seconds is enough for you to be dead. Keep your perimeters clear so that the Zs do not have that advantage. If you cannot kill directly, kill them indirectly. Everybody practices killing, and distance kills are the best. Man, if you have a rifle and a roof, you should be able to make a pretty good dent. I know that I did. So, rest in peace is what we've started calling putting the zombies down. You rip zombies. You let them rest in peace. So, this is not in Robert's Rules, but I feel like every place should have rippers that just make sure the perimeter's clear and that everything's going the way it's supposed to. Do not attract the dead is rule number 5. No open fires. Smoke from a chimney is okay. That doesn't seem to pull them in, but campfires, it's like ringing a dinner bell. Do not be boisterous. No loud music or conversations. Again, this is outside. I know that at the station we've played loud music inside and not attracted the dead. But if I put a boombox outside and start playing it, they come from everywhere. They love music. If you are using a gun, minimize your shots and have an escape plan. I will say that in my experience, guns aren't always going to draw them in, but more than 3 or 4 shots from a gun and they'll come running. No prolonged food odors. This is partially the smoke rule. If you are outside cooking food, the zombies come every time. I guess they think the food's for them. I don't know. But this is sort of the same as no fire outside. Rule number 6, always be adapting. The world has changed and is still changing. We need to change with it. Old customs and old comforts can become hazards. Question your habits. How much benefit versus how much risk? This is something that I did when we were in the evacuation camp and I weaned myself off of coffee. I didn't know when we'd be able to get it next. We were hoarding the supply that we had, and caffeine is one of those necessary things that you don't realize is an addiction, and a physical one. If you've been drinking caffeine every day of your life and you go a day without drinking caffeine, you're going to get a debilitating headache, and probably for several days. What I did in the evacuation camp is I slowly reduced how much coffee I was drinking. I would have a cup of coffee when I used to have 2. Then I had half a cup for a few days, then a quarter cup for a few days, etc. So always be adapting. And a lot of that comes down to what can you readily get? What are your habits? What habits can you change? Okay. Number 7, always grow. Practice and grow new skills. Make allies. Find and create new resources. Learn new things. Have a useful niche, but learn redundancy. Anyway, right now we're in the growing phase. I really do believe. The plant is huge. The station is not a huge outpost in comparison, and it is fenced in kind of a lot. And they started mowing, which really separates them out from the rest of the landscape because, are kind of lots of grasslands these these days. And one of the dangers of grasslands is crawlers and ankle biters. So this really helps with that. They used the old-fashioned, those old-fashioned, they're like round wheeled things with just blades on them. They used that for mowing, which is more of a pain in the ass, according to Malcolm's people, but allows them to see their perimeter. And they have people who walk that perimeter all of the time. So, and the very last portion of Robert's Rules of Chaos, number 8, these rules are a social contract. Don't be too careless with dangerous people, but don't use this rule to murder and abuse. So, just because somebody isn't following the social contract, like we saw with our people trying to do the roadblock, doesn't mean that you have to kill them. And one of the things Vince said on the way home is that it's actually better to not kill them because eventually they may change their minds. And what Vince thinks happened is a more potent form of what I did with Violet. He thinks that my scream showed them the truth of them, their situation, the reality, showed them truth, capital T. And, a lot of people, when they're shown the truth, they can't handle it. It's too much. So that's Vince's guess, and Malcolm seems to agree based on the testing they've done with me. However, I am being called to do more testing, so I am going to have to say goodbye. If you have not found people yet, keep the hope, keep the faith, survive, survive, survive. Things are getting better. We are rebuilding. So you keep alive until we can get to you. Harper out.